Rev up your engines! Alright, I have an old classic Jeep behind me. Is it worth buying one and fixing it up? How much money are you going to have to spend? Now, many people like these old classic Jeeps. They're easy to maintain. They came from a simpler year. Now, of course, you got to check for rust on these. If they're rusted, they were notorious rust buckets. You don't want to buy one. You can see here, look at the floor pan. Solid. Solid. Frame is old. It's got some superficial rust on it. You're always going to be on something this old, but it's still pretty solid. That's true on both sides. Now, as for the body on this one, you don't have to worry about rust because it's been replaced with fiberglass body. Door got broken, so it's just been fiberglass back on the fiberglass. But that's why the body's so clean, as you can see. These rust out like mad on the steel ones. That's why it's been replaced with fiberglass. As I said, the original ones, the steel, rot away a lot. This one obviously rotted completely away. It was replaced with fiberglass. There's pros and cons. Now, a lot of guys like the aluminum bodies. They won't rust, but of course, aluminum bodies cost a lot more than these fiberglass kits. Now, the main problem with the fiberglass kits, of course, is on a normal vehicle, the wires are all positive electricity, and all the metal parts, the body and everything, are ground, negative electricity. So you can have a lot of problems with ground wiring on these things. And as you can see, this baby's got problems. Where the wiring harness was touching, and up there, where it touches when you close the hood, the wires are getting way too hot and they're melting stuff. So when you do buy these fiberglass kits, you gotta make sure everything has power and ground. The grounding is gonna be a lot more complex. Now this doesn't matter here, because that's metal, that's the metal frame. But the rest of the vehicle, it's all fiberglass. You're gonna have to run grounds to everything. To the brake lights, the tail lights, instrument panel, it's all fiberglass. They all have to have grounds on them. Thank goodness this is an old vehicle. Look how simple it is. You don't have all the computer crap that would go haywire if the grounds weren't correct. What's under the hood? A simple carburetor. You can see it's got 2 ports inside. This is an old-fashioned 2-barrel carburetor with a simple distributor. And these straight 6 Jeep engines are notorious for lasting forever with minimal care. They're pretty easy to get a hold of. There's a starter. It's a brand new starter. You can get those things easily enough. Fancy electric fuel pumps. Got a mechanical one. Bolts on here. Very easy to get to. And of course, most people want to modernize these things so they're fun to drive. On this one, it didn't come with power brakes, so they added a power brake booster system to it, so it'll stop better. It does have disc brakes, old-fashioned drum brakes in the back. So power brakes really make this thing a lot easier to drive and safer. And speaking of drivability, steering's been changed. Originally, it had no power steering, so it was modified. Cost a bit of money, but you can see this is all modified. And it now has power steering, which it didn't have before. Of course, there's companies that sell the kits. You can see the brackets bolt on the engine. It's a 6-cylinder engine that was very common. There's many parts available for it. So this was added on by the man who bought it. You can go as far or as short as you want in doing modifications, or you can do them over years. Whatever you want to do. These are fun vehicles to drive. They're fun off-road vehicles. They're not made for long-distance highway driving. They're high up in the air. Got a great 4-wheel drive system, but look at the suspension. Old leaf springs. Big shock absorbers, but old leaf springs in the front. Smooth riding and cruising is not what this vehicle was made for. So let's climb aboard, start it up. Stay in the K. Starts right up. Now, as per usual on these, the gas gauge is broken. It doesn't work anymore. Neither does the voltmeter. The oil pressure works, but you can see that gas gauge doesn't work either. But you can hear it's still a smooth running engine. So close the hood and take it for a spin. Very simple design. That is no pop-up. Now I gotta say, the wiring could do with a lot of repair. And it's almost as if they know it with this fire extinguisher. These tiny doors, good thing it's still got good seat belts on it. You wouldn't go flying out those doors. If you're high up in here, and that power steering really makes it easier to drive, I'll say that. Now, of course, realize these are not handling machines. You gotta do a lot of wrestling on, even to take simple curves like this. This is not a vehicle to race around in. The 6-cylinder engine's got enough horsepower. It's not a high-speed machine. It's fine. It's great for taking off-road. Speed demon? It isn't. Don't try to turn one into one. As you can see, they tend to wander all over the road. High-speed cornering is not one of their fortes, and neither is speed. as you'll see. Here we go. All over the road when you're driving. And high-speed driving isn't its forte, as I said. You bounce all over the road with those leaf springs. You gotta keep counter steering to keep in a straight line in one of these babies. And it's not even windy today. And that's only going 35 miles an hour. Its real stability is when you're sitting at a stoplight. Now it's nice and stable. Now if you're looking to buy an old CJ Jeep, realize they had a zillion different engines in them throughout history. They had a 4.2 liter AMC straight cylinder 6 like this Jeep has, which as far as I'm concerned is probably the best one for overall driving. And they even had a 5 liter AMC V8, which was a unique V8. It wasn't Ford, it wasn't Chevy, it was their own kind of interesting AMC design. But as far as I'm concerned, that V8 engine is overpowered for these dangerous. Many people have killed themselves in those things. There's just too much power for a vehicle that originally, when it was the Willys Jeep, that was the first company, it had a top speed of 65 miles an hour, and you were really pushing it to get it going that fast. You throw a powerful V8 engine into that design, you're just asking for trouble. You get enough trouble with one of these 6s. Got enough power for off-roading, fun for driving around, and I don't really like the 4s. They're kind of underpowered. And really, as you can see, they are smooth, idling, powerful engines that can last forever. So now you know the truth about these old CJ civilian Jeeps. You can have a lot of fun if you keep the speed down and if you price around and do things right. So far this thing's got a little bit more than $7,000 in the price paid and the work done to it. And it's a fun, low-speed off-road toy. An expensive Polaris ATV UTV can go as high as $26,000 for a new one. Making $7 grand for something like this look like a pretty good deal, because you can still drive this thing on the street. It's street legal, just don't go too fast in them. And here's some bonus questions and answers. McKay says, should I use synthetic oil blend oil in my 97 Chevy S10 4.3 liter that leaks oil? I've been using conventional oil the whole time, and I wanted to switch to a synthetic blend. Should I do it? In that case, no. It's had oil leaks for the last 5 years. Synthetic oil is good oil for nice, new, shiny cars. Cars have been taken care of because it flows better. It's lighter. You got oil leaks. Guess what? It's going to flow through the leaking area even faster and leak faster. Let's say you got a bad oil seal on the main crank. It's dripping. It might pour out when you put synthetic blend in, or full synthetic. Either way, they flow better. You don't want something that flows better in a car that leaks oil, because it's going to flow out the holes faster. So don't. Keep using conventional oil. It's a 97. It's old as the hills. You probably don't want to pull the engine out and replace all the seals. It will cost a lot of money. I'd say use normal oil. And try this. Get some AT205 reseal. Pour it in the engine. It can help keep the seals from leaking. It rejuvenates rubber. Try that instead. But I wouldn't use any type of synthetic blend or pure synthetic on an old engine like that leaks oil. Wyatt Simpson says, my transmission slipped in. I have a 2011 Toyota Tacoma with 112,000 miles. I changed the transmission fluid. It's never been changed. Now it slips slightly when I go up a slight hill. I use the recommended WS fluid, change the gasket. Now, I haven't given it much time. Do you think it'll work itself out, or have I damaged? Well, you never know, but you did say you kept the old oil. My advice, drain it out again and put the old oil back in. It was used to it. It had all that mileage. It had never been changed. That's why I tell people, if you got a high mileage car, 112,000 miles, and the tranny's never been touched, it's often a good idea just to leave the frickin' thing alone, because it's used to the friction. And if you don't know about automatic transmissions, they actually drive by the fluid friction. Dirty fluid has more friction and it won't slip. Clean new fluid will often slip because it's clean. It's really slippery, and that can happen. So I'd put the old fluid back in. It was smart that you saved the old fluid. I'd put it back in and leave it alone at that if I were you. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.